Listen quietly for a few minutes. Listen quietly to the thump that you're hearing. What you're hearing is a live observation of a pulsar with the new telescope. A pulsar is a rotating neutron star. It weighs half again more than our own sun, yet its diameter is only about 12 miles. A pulsar can be thought of as a celestial lighthouse with a radio beacon that sweeps past us with each rotation. You'll hear more about these observations as the program goes on. I'd like to ask you all now please to stand for the posting of colors, the national anthem, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Colors are presented by West Virginia Army National Guard, Detachment 1, Charlie Battery, 1st of 201st from Ronceverte, West Virginia. The national anthem is presented by members of the Pocahontas County High School Music Department under the direction of Ron Hall. Led by the Cub Scouts of Pac 112 Green Bank under the direction of Cub Master Jerry Lawrence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very much, Cub Scouts. Thank you, Pocahontas County High band members, and thank you, Color Guard. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Paul Vandenbout, the Director of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory.
It's a pleasure to welcome all of you to this very happy event in the history of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. We are delighted that you chose to attend and grateful for your presence here today at the dedication of the Robert C. Byrd Green Bank Telescope. I would like to recognize several distinguished guests. Major General Alan Tackett of the West Virginia Army National Guard, Father Thomas S. Acker of Jesuit Wheeling University, Dr. Ricardo Giacconi, President of Associated Universities, Inc., the research management corporation that operates the NRAO on behalf of the National Science Foundation. Dr. Paul Martin, Chairman of the AUI Board of Trustees, Mr. Daniel S. Golden, the NASA Administrator, Dr. Rita S. Caldwell, the Director of the National Science Foundation, and our keynote speaker, Senator Robert C. Byrd. Please welcome these people. Let me now call on Father Acker to give the invocation. Please rise.
Good Lord, on this special occasion, we don't bow our heads as much as we look upward to the skies that we relish. Lord, today in Deer Creek Valley, amidst the mountains of West Virginia, in the county named after a Native American princess, Pocahontas, in a region that gave birth to Pearl Buck, we assemble to acknowledge you as creator of a universe that transcends our state our nation, and our planet. Your anointed King David sketched you in psalms and hymns. The heavens are yours, and the earth is yours, sang David. You founded the world and all it holds. We peer up at your heavens made by your fingers, at the moon and stars you set in place. Ah, what is man that you should spare a thought for him, that you should care for him? Lord, yet you do. You know us by name. You hold us in the palm of your hand. Bless each one of us today as we dedicate this advanced radio telescope that will enable us to understand better the vastness, the depth, and the breadth of your wondrous creation. Today culminates the building work of many hands, many minds, and many forces. But none are more important than the labor of Senator Byrd, who when the old came tumbling down, knew how to lay the foundations for a new dream. He has graced the scientific community with opportunity, the public with educational advancement, the state and our nation with research capability. Continue to lay your hand upon his shoulder and that of his dear spouse, Irma. In wisdom and grace, may they continue to inspire and to lead. Favor with insight the men and women who labor at this observatory. Reward with your gifts of peace and sense of accomplishment all whose efforts made this day possible. And again, we look to the psalmist, who prays to the Lord, from whom we came and whom each of us shall go. Lord, sings the psalmist, you made the great lights, the sun to govern day, moon and stars to govern the night. Your love is everlasting. Be with us during this dedication, Lord. Be with us always. Lord, simply be with us. Amen.
Building the world's largest fully steerable radio telescope is an enterprise that required the combined efforts of very many people. So many, it would be a grave error on my part to attempt to name them all. And I trust I will be forgiven for mentioning only a very few by name. Let me begin by recognizing the community of astronomers at the NRAO, in the scientific community, and around the world who developed the concept for the radio telescope for the 21st century, as their proposal was entitled. And let me recognize the National Science Foundation for the vision and courage to approve the construction of a new national facility that provides the huge advance in capability we are here to celebrate today. The mission of the NRAO is to serve the scientific community, and we are proud of the accomplishments of the observatory staff who worked on this project. They have equipped the telescope with systems that maintain the shape of the reflecting surface and accurately point the telescope using innovative laser rangers with signal receivers and a signal analyzer that define the state of the art, and with software and computer systems that tie it together into a working telescope. To oversee and manage this enterprise required a dedicated, hard-working team. On behalf of the observatory, AUI, and the astronomers who will use the telescope, I want to thank all of them, and especially the project manager, Bob Hall, who led the team. I want to recognize the antenna contractor, ComSat, for delivering what is very likely the largest precisely movable mechanical structure on Earth. The members of Iron Workers Local 697 and of Operating Engineers Local 132 employed by ComSat to assemble the antenna can take pride in their participation in this project. The assembly of large steel structures is hard and dangerous work. One of the iron workers, Mr. Nick Walls, lost his life on the job in a tragic accident. We are honored today that his widow Bonnie, son Jason, and parents Jean and Bill Walls are here with us. Please join me in a moment of silence in memory of Nick Wall. To conclude these remarks, let me recognize the person whose vision, determination, strength, and unwavering support made this telescope possible. Were it not for him, we would not be here today. We all owe a deep debt of gratitude to the man for whom the telescope is named, Senator Robert C. Byrd. Thank you. One of the great advances in modern astronomy has been the expansion of capability that space-based telescopes have provided, adding gamma ray, X-ray, and infrared views of the universe to what we can see from the ground in visible light and radio waves. No one has given more vision and vitality to the nation's space astronomy program than the current and longest-serving NASA Administrator, Dan Golden. It is a great pleasure to welcome him to Green Bank, where NASA, along with NSF, is making a significant investment in public science education with the establishment of a new Science Education and Visitor Center. Please join me in welcoming Dan Golden and inviting him to share his thoughts on the dedication of this telescope.
Dr. Paul Vandenbout, Dr. Caldwell, scientists, future scientists in the front row here, and all Americans who are interested in the inspiration that we get from peering into the depths of space. I'm honored to be here today. And I'm honored to join today's dedication of the Robert C. Byrd Green Bank Telescope because we at NASA share Senator Byrd's deep commitment to science. Senator Byrd recently hosted the members of the National Youth Science Foundation in Washington. During his address to them, he quoted Horace Greeley, who said, "Fame is a vapor, popularity an accident, riches take wings, those who cheer today curse tomorrow, only one thing endures, character." Senator Byrd, the depth of your character has made you one of West Virginia's and one of America's greatest sons. And your commitment to the construction of this telescope we are here to dedicate today makes you one of the universe's greatest sons. We are deeply honored to be here with you. Far beyond its name, this grand instrument will stand as 16 million pounds of testimony to the persistence and commitment and leadership of Senator Byrd. And when I think of Senator Byrd's indomitable pioneering spirit, I'm reminded of another great pioneer. Earlier this year, I was honored to be at the University of Padua to celebrate the amazing accomplishments of Galileo. As most of you know, Galileo did two very simple things that had revolutionary consequences. First, he improved the then new 3-power telescope into a 20-power instrument. Second, while many of his contemporaries saw the telescope as a novelty or a toy to view distant objects on Earth, Galileo saw the possibilities elsewhere and turned it skyward. That simple shift in focus from the horizon of the Earth to the depths of the heavens altered the course of humanity and sent us on a quest to the far frontiers of space. This grand new instrument is a critical component in increasing our understanding of our universe. However, the path that brought us to this day was not an easy one. When the previous radio telescope on this site collapsed after 2 decades of service, Many people predicted gloom and doom for radio astronomy. Not Senator Byrd. Like Galileo, he made a simple shift in focus. He turned his attention from the problem before him, the loss of a highly productive instrument, to the obvious solution, building a new, improved telescope. The result of that shift in focus towers over us right now, ready to enlighten us for decades to come. Anyone who knows anything about Senator Byrd shouldn't be surprised to hear how instrumental he was in meeting the Green Bank Telescope Challenge. He has dedicated his life to focusing on solutions to the challenges facing this great state and our great nation. And time again, he has led us to those solutions, solidifying our nation's stature as a world leader. And like Senator Byrd, this telescope represents the very best America has to offer. The best and the brightest came together to design and build the largest, fully steerable radio telescope in the world. And they did it in grand style by making this instrument the largest unblocked aperture ever. We hope, Senator Byrd, to do this in space one of these days, too. And he has done countless times, as he has done countless times during his decades of service to our nation, Senator Byrd expected the best. Then he went to work and made it happen. And people throughout the world will be inspired and amazed by the results. The best and the brightest in the world of science will use this telescope. The team will be led by the National Science Foundation under the capable leadership of Dr. Caldwell and the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, who have been NASA's valued partners for decades. You may not know this, but NASA owes the long-term success of our Voyager mission to the incredible people at the National Science Foundation and NRAO. As our Voyager spacecraft went deep into space, far beyond where we expected to hear from them, the radio signals they sent to Earth became almost too faint to detect. Enter NRAO. Their team worked closely with NASA to tune the very large array instruments to receive Voyager signals from the far reaches of our solar system. And we at NASA deeply appreciate NRAO's role in one of the most successful deep space missions in the history of this planet. This new telescope promises even more exciting results. The world's top scientists will work together and use this instrument to unlock the mysteries of our universe. Scientists will take a closer look at the clouds of gas and dust surrounding our youngest stars, clouds that may be forming a new generation of planets. They will learn more about how stars are born, which is a first essential step to understand how life may have originated in the universe. In addition, this instrument will allow us to learn more about pulsars, the only window we know of into the action of matter in the most extreme and energetic conditions. The state-of-the-art instrument will open up new windows on the heavens, and the world will be inspired by what we discover. We at NASA can't wait for the results. So today, we celebrate the start of an exciting new era in radio astronomy and the continued scientific excellence of the National Science Foundation and the NRAO. Today we follow the example of Galileo and turn our sights to the heavens with an incredible new instrument to help us understand what is out there. And today we celebrate the unbelievable leadership of Senator Robert Byrd, who made this moment possible and who, like Galileo, challenges every one of us to dream about the new frontier and inspires every one of us to go find it. Thank you for inviting me here, and please join me in thanking Senator Byrd.
Thank you, Dan, for those inspiring remarks. I should add that he has to leave on an important government business, and so we'll miss him for the rest of the ceremony, but it was great to have him here. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to call on Ricardo Giacconi, President of AUI, to introduce our next speaker.
It's a distinct pleasure and an honor for me to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Rita Caldwell, Director of the National Science Foundation. Since taking on the job in August 1998, Dr. Caldwell has worked tirelessly to highlight the importance of the work that science is doing for this country and the importance of NSF work within that, both to the public and to the administration. And she has been so successful, in fact, as to be able to persuade the current administration to recommend an historic 17% increase to the foundation budget for the fiscal year 2001. That is far from the doubling or tripling of the budget that she would like, but I think it's a good step along the way. Prior to her work at NSF, Dr. Caldwell was president of the University of Maryland Biotechnology Institute, a professor of microbiology, positions that she had since 1991 and 72. And while at the university, Dr. Caldwell also served as director of the Sea Grant College, which she helped found, and as vice president for academic affairs. She is a highly respected scientist and educator. She has been the past president of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, as author or co-author in an incredible 500 scientific papers, 16 books, and in her spare time, she has produced an award-winning movie. She has been recognized by more society and academies that I can name, and just recently she has been elected to the National Academy of Science, the most prestigious body in the United States. I'm sure that all of you will join me today in expressing our gratitude for the work that Dr. Caldwell is doing in Washington on behalf of science, and also for their graciousness and willingness to join us today in this happy occasion for AUI, for NRAO, for radio astronomy, for NSF. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Giacconi, for the introduction. It's truly an honor to be here in West Virginia to help dedicate the Robert C. Byrd Green Bank Telescope. At the National Science Foundation, it's especially meaningful that this dedication comes when we are celebrating the Foundation's 50th year anniversary, making this the half-century of discovery in science and engineering. And it's a great occasion to launch this telescope on its own journey to discoveries that we really cannot even now imagine. NSF as an agency has grown in parallel with radio astronomy. And largely with NSF's support, the United States has built the world's premier radio astronomy facilities and led the world in this scientific field. Now this new monumental instrument will contribute a singular capability to our suite of unique national facilities for astronomy. They include, among others, the Very Large Array, the Very Long Baseline Array, the Arecibo Observatory, and the new Gemini telescopes. And I've just come here, in fact, from a celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Very Large Array in New Mexico. And this was my first visit to the array. And for those of you who haven't been there, it's exceedingly impressive. NSF is also pleased to be playing a leadership role in developing the International Partnership for ALMA, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array. Maintaining the cutting edge of U.S. astronomy means fostering synergy between instruments in space and on the ground, and combining the capabilities of different wavelengths. And before us stands a new technical marvel, the largest steerable radio telescope in the world. Its laser system will enable constant adjustments of the reflecting panels that you can see there to correct for the effects of gravity. No other radio dish has an active surface of this kind. As we stand poised to inaugurate this new telescope, I would like to paraphrase Sir Isaac Newton. You'll recall Newton's remark about seeing farther by standing on the shoulders of giants. Well, this instrument will also see much further because it rests upon the foundations of what came before. The Green Bank Observatory has a long heritage of scientific revelations. The discovery made here of the pulsar in the Crab Nebula illumined the nature of pulsars. The important observations of the ionized hydrogen spectra that signify star formation were made right here. And it was also shown convincingly here that radio waves were bent by gravity, helping to verify Einstein's prediction. Our observatory site, right here at Green Bank, is a precious resource in itself for astronomers all over the world. The National Radio Quiet Zone enjoys unique protection from radio interference. It makes it a perfect place for a radio telescope. Now, beyond the technological prowess, there's something spiritual and special about being in the shadow of a telescope. It stirs the imaginations of scientists, teachers, and children alike. It's been said that no instrument has helped us to explore our place in the universe like the telescope. And the Robert C. Byrd Telescope will be the workhorse of the Green Bank Observatory for decades to come. We expect it to probe the mysteries like the birth of galaxies in the very early universe, the birth of stars, and the chemical composition of interstellar dust and gas. These are the very elements created in the universe that eventually become the stuff of biological systems. And today we're seeing astronomy converging with biology. We are watching the disciplines intersect, forging new frontiers at every scale, from microorganisms to the stars. Indeed, from the microscope, with which I work as a microbiologist, to the telescope, which the astronomers work with, our tools are actually accelerating the merger of scientific disciplines. And there's also something special about the namesake of this telescope, Senator Robert C. Byrd. Senator Byrd's knowledge of the classics is legendary. But I wonder if he's familiar with a line Shakespeare wrote that seems very appropriate today. It is this: few men rightly temper with the stars. And Senator Byrd is certainly one of those few who rightly has. He is well known for his enthusiasm for science and education, as well as in his enduring support for radio astronomy. We are all deeply grateful for Senator Byrd's action in securing an emergency appropriation for the Green Bank Telescope. We're also grateful for his steadfast, solid, continuing support through the years of construction of the monumental instrument that now, we are pleased, bears his name. The tremendous acclaim held by the people of West Virginia for Senator Byrd is shown by the fact that he has served longer in the United States Senate than anyone else in the history of the state. He has distinguished himself in the Senate in many leadership positions, most notably as Majority Leader and as Chair of the Appropriations Committee. And I would say that Senator Byrd has helped to define the U.S. Senate as an institution over his career. No one has combined his encyclopedic knowledge of the Senate's history with sustained support for research. His backing for education here at the Green Bank Observatory will help to stir the imagination of every child in West Virginia by having each one participate in an educational program right here at Green Bank before graduation. I think it's a wonderful way to ensure that young minds from across the state are open to the dreams and the discoveries and the beauty of astronomy. It's a way to open them up to all of science. On a more personal note, I know that members of Senator Byrd's family are very proud to be here today to celebrate this dedication. And it turns out that scientific connections run deep in the Byrd family. The senator told me that one of his sons-in-law, and not one, but two of his grandsons are physicists. Now, from personal experience, I can testify having physicists in the family keeps life very interesting. I'm married to one. So it is now my very great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. It's no exaggeration to say that without Senator Byrd, this telescope would not be here today. It's both a great honor and an immense pleasure to introduce a true gentleman, Senator Robert C. Byrd of West Virginia. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you. I read from Psalm 8. King James Version of the Holy Bible. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Who has set thy glory above the heavens? When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man, that thou art mindful of him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands, that thou hast put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Now let me thank you, Dr. Caldwell, for your overly generous and very gracious introduction. And let me thank you for what you are doing to advance our technology, our science, our knowledge of the planet and the other planets, the universe. Thank you very much for all of your cooperation and good help with respect to the building of this magnificent instrument here, which we all celebrate today. On Tuesday night of this week, this telescope saw first light, achieving the premier milestone for any new radio telescope with the sighting of its first pulsar. This telescope has arrived. That means it works. It works. The National Science Foundation's role in fostering basic science is crucial for our country and the advancement of mankind. And I can't tell you how deeply appreciative I am that you are the director of the National Science Foundation. When the old telescope collapsed down here, I asked the National Science Foundation director to come to my office. The old telescope collapsed on November the 15th, 1988. I became the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee in January of 1989. And the supplemental appropriation bills have to be managed by the chairman and the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee. Not only in the committee, but on the Senate floor and in the conference between the two houses. And so at that time, Eric Bloch was the director of the National Science Foundation. Now, Eric Bloch, and I know I speak in his absence, which isn't quite the gentlemanly thing to do, but I say what I think and I say the truth, especially in this instance. Eric Bloch was cold. He didn't want to see this telescope replaced here at Green Bank. He wanted it replaced, but not here in West Virginia. And so I said to him after 2 or 3 meetings and meeting the great stone face of Eric Bloch, Hawthorne wrote the Great Stone Face, and I refer to myself when I say the Great Stone Face. So the two great stone faces met. And on this particular occasion, I said, now, Mr. Director, I'm the new chairman of the Appropriations Committee. We want that telescope replaced, and we want it in West Virginia. Now, it's going to cost $75 million. I'm going to put that $75 million in the first supplemental appropriation bill. And in addition to that, I'm going to have language in the committee report that directs the National Science Foundation, or at least uses a very persuasive bit of language to replace that telescope at Green Bank. Have the new telescope at Green Bank, West Virginia. And so, as Walter Cronkite used to say, that's the way it was. Now, I have my wonderful staff here today. There is a saying that clothes make the man. I want to tell you another saying. Staff makes the senator. And I have one of the best staffs, I think it's the best staff on Capitol Hill, and someone in this audience told me today that it was the best staff on Capitol Hill. And you said if you write a letter to that staff before you get home, it seems, you'll get a response. And that's a good reflection on me. I won't call the names of my staff people who are here today, but I am going to call one name. I'm going to call the name of the Deputy Director of the Senate Appropriations Committee when we're in control, which I hope we will be again in my lifetime. He is the Deputy Director of the Senate Appropriations Committee. He is one heartbeat away from Robert C. Byrd. And his name is Terry Sylvain. Terry, stand. You're not very tall over there, but you're tall in the eyes of West Virginia. So I have a wonderful staff. I'll tell you something else here. I have a wife who has stood by me 63 years. 63 years. And lacking 4 days, 3 months. 63 years and 3 months. Loretta Lynn sings a song. I am a coal miner's daughter. This is a coal miner's daughter, my wife. And being in Washington has never changed her one iota. She has sent 3 kids through college, our 2 daughters and me. Irma, I won't ask you to stand, but that's the coal miner's daughter. Now let me also thank Father Acker for his inspiring invocation. That's the best part of the program. And thank you for being our friend, a friend of West Virginia, and for the great job that you did at the Wheeling Jesuit College, later the Wheeling Jesuit University. A great job. And there are two buildings up there. There are 2 buildings, and Father Acker and Wheeling Jesuit University worked very closely with NASA. There are 2 buildings up there. One is the Robert C. Byrd building, and the other one is dedicated to my wife, Irma. Now let me also thank these Boy Scouts. They don't boo Boy Scouts in West Virginia. We appreciate the work that the Boy Scouts do in this state, and you did a good job. Leading in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm the only man on Capitol Hill. I'll count the women also. 535 members of the House and Senate. And I'm the only person on Capitol Hill today who voted on June the 7th, 1954, to insert the words "under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, Abraham lived to be 175 years old, Isaac 180, Jacob 147, Joseph 110, Joshua 110, Moses 120. Strom Thurmond is only 98. I've been on Capitol Hill longer than Strom Thurmond. I was in the House of Representatives when before Strom got to Capitol Hill. But he's a fine senator, and I've served with him over the years. But those Boy Scouts did well, and so did the musical group that played the national anthem for us. I thank all of you for being here today. I thank you, Dr. Jewell, for your invitation for me to speak on this auspicious occasion. I appreciate the attendance and the comments of NASA Administrator Dan Golden, who had to leave earlier, Dr. Vandenbout, and Dr. I can't pronounce it. What is it? I'll pass. Thank you, though. Thank you. And I'm very pleased today to have the signal honor to dedicate this exceedingly impressive scientific instrument. Like its physical presence and its forerunner, now that's the problem when the wind blows a page and you lose your place. Its physical presence and its marvelous technological capabilities, its mission is truly pushing beyond the limits of where mankind has ever gone before. That's right here in West Virginia. How many of you people are from outside West Virginia? Let me see your hands. Well, that's a good number. We won't hold that against you. Let me tell you, you're in West Virginia. This is where the East says good morning to the West, and where Yankee Doodle and Dixie kiss each other good night. West Virginia. In 1610, Galileo produced his 30-power optical telescope. Now, the scientists have already gone over this, and I feel like I'm imposing on the scientists in the crowd to attempt to say anything along this line. The Green Bank telescope is the latest and most advanced example of the radio telescope, which was first invented in the 1930s. Now, that was back in the days of the 2-cent stamp and the penny postcard. And I lived in that Great Depression. I want to tell you about communications then. We're dedicating something here that communicates to the earth the signals that come from the heavenly bodies. But back in those days, our communications up Wolf Creek Holler consisted of an old telephone on the wall. And I used to stand in the chair. If you stand, you're standing up, you know. I used to stand in the chair and crank that telephone, 3 longs and 2 shorts, and my boyfriend down the holler, about 1.5 miles, lifted the receiver. And so did everybody else in the neighborhood. And they not only listened in, but they joined in. That was togetherness. Back in the days, when I walked 3 miles to what we call the hard road and attended a little 2-room schoolhouse. I wish we still had some of those 2-room schoolhouses. Well, we have come truly a long way. While the Hubble telescope has allowed wonderful visual images and its own set of discoveries, radio telescopes allow scientists to view the sky via wavelengths of invisible radiation. Radio astronomy has facilitated the discovery of some of the most important objects in the sky, pulsars and quasars, to name but 2, and have inspired the growth of new astronomers, studying X-rays and infrared, ultraviolet, and gamma rays. If we think of Hubble as an eye peering into the universe, this new radio telescope is an ear, an extremely sensitive ear. The construction of this tremendous scientific resource has resulted, as you already have heard, from the work of many. It wouldn't be possible without innovations in technology and without the support of the National Science Foundation. And without the financial resources, let me remind you of that again. The $75 million in appropriations that Robert C. Byrd added to an appropriations bill in 1989. Don't ever let them forget that. You know, Dr. Caldwell, West Virginians have always had 4 friends. God Almighty, Sears and Roebuck, Carter's Little Liver Pill, and Robert C. Byrd. And not necessarily in that order. But standing here on the earth in West Virginia, next to this massive instrument that explores the great beyond, helps us to realize that we truly live in wonderful, awe-inspiring times. Since the earliest days of mankind, men and women have cast their eyes upward to the firmament and wondered what it is all about. And we're still wondering. Psalm 19, a Psalm of David, Father Acker opens with the words, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." Every conscious human being at one time or another, throughout all of the eons of time, has pondered what the greatest philosophers have pondered, the human condition and where we fit into the universe. This sense of awe over the generations is not just an exercise of the adult mind. In recent years, scores of our youth have been inspired by astronomy. Astronomy and paleontology, stars and dinosaurs, are the hooks that are drawing the next generation to the power and the purpose of science. I understand that 20,000 people visit the observatory at Green Bank every year. Now, there's someone in this audience by the name of Matthew McCann. Matthew McCann. He teaches at the Franciscan, I believe it's the Franciscan University in Steubenville, just across the great Ohio River from the northern Panhandle. He teaches there. He told me this morning at breakfast that he was going to bring his students here every year and have them listen to the stories about this great instrument behind us and go up into that instrument. Where is Matthew McCann? Where is he? There he is. Yes, sir. You never know. You start talking about people, they might be in the audience. Well, many of these visitors and school children who first have their curiosity about science peaked right here at Green Bank. And that's an important mission. As a matter of fact, I consider it such an integral part of the work here at Green Bank that I obtained nearly $4 million. Last year, for a planned education and visitors center that will enhance the ability of this observatory to inform, to teach, and to entice others to the study of science. And I hope that work on that new center can begin in the near future. The new radio astronomy telescope represents a marvelous potential tool for the astronomers and the physicists of the world. Not only will it allow mankind to look deeper into space, but deeper into time also. And as well, the discoveries made here will also help us to understand the laws of nature at both the cosmic and the subatomic levels. Now, I've been studying. I'm not a scientist, of course, but I have a querulous mind. I want to know. I want to know. That's why I read Darwin's Origin of Species. That's why I read Darwin's The Descent of Man. He has something to say. It doesn't bother me to have it taught in the schools, but why not teach the creation, about the creation in the book of Genesis, which is the greatest scientific thesis that was ever written, the first chapter of Genesis. And reading Darwin only strengthened my faith in a creator. And he mentions the creator himself. If you've ever read Darwin, he mentions Darwin, a creator. So, nothing can shake. Nothing can shake the faith of West Virginians. In many ways, this instrument is both a telescope and a microscope. Our scholars tell us that much of what scientists know about the nature of atoms comes from astronomy. So things large and small are within the scope of this important instrument. The original Green Bank telescope was responsible for making several of the early pulsar discoveries during its years of operation. Studying pulsars, scientists tell me, is a good example of how this new telescope is both a telescope and a microscope. Pulsars are composed of pure neutron matter, a primary subatomic building block. And you see, that's the way it goes. Where did I get this information? I got it from the people here at Green Bank. And those who preceded me tell the whole story before I get to it. But I learned from them. It's not bad to mention it again. In the earthbound laboratory, neutron matter exists only very fleetingly, and therefore its effects are very difficult to observe and measure. And yet, using the Green Bank radio telescope, scientists can relatively easily measure and analyze pure neutron matter by observing pulsars, which remain available for observation indefinitely. Many aspects of the great theories, and they are theories indeed, of the beginning of our world are examined by the resources assembled here at Green Bank. Darwin, listen to Darwin. Darwin said, "What right do we have to believe that the Creator, with a capital C, operates by intellectual powers like those of man?" Think about that. He hit the nail right on the head, didn't he? What right do we have to believe that the Creator operates by intellectual powers like those of man? It's appropriate that this dedication ceremony began and ended in prayer, and will end in prayer. Reverend Father Theodore M. Hesburgh, former president of the University of Notre Dame and theological scholar, came to the U.S. Capitol a few weeks ago, where he was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Father Hesburgh once wrote, and I quote him, "It is precisely because I believe theologically that there is a being called God, and that He is infinite in intelligence, freedom, and power, that I cannot take it upon myself to limit what He might have done." I read in the newspaper some time ago that 40% of the scientists in the United States believe in a Creator, believe that there is a God. I don't know, but I cannot understand how any scientist could help but believe that there is a higher intellect. I've been reading the anthropic cosmological principle, and I kind of agree with that principle. I won't go into it here, but it teaches that there is a higher intellect, and that He planned for eons for the coming of human beings. And that 15 billion years ago there was the great, what was it called? The Great Bang? The Big Bang. The Big Bang. And that the constants of nature, the principle of gravity, the speed of light, and these other constants were so finely tuned that if one were changed just in the slightest, this whole universe possibly wouldn't have existed, or it would have been all helium. And water might have frozen from the bottom up instead of from the top down. Let me say to you people, you scientists here, I admire you greatly. I've got As you heard, a son-in-law who's a PhD in physics, 2 grandsons who are PhDs in physics, and one of those grandsons is married to a young lady who's getting her PhD in physics. But you're sitting here among a people here today who believe in a God. They believe in a creator. I haven't ever seen him. I've never seen him. But I haven't seen electricity either. And I wouldn't put my finger in a socket in the wall, nor would you. I haven't seen love either. You haven't seen it. Love's not something you see walking around. But it's there. Science may be recognizing that rules or tangible events or even the laws of physics may not always be entirely explainable. As we search for scientific truth, we may also provoke a faith that instills in the previously cynical, I come from the city of cynics, the highfalutin intellectuals within the Beltway. That doesn't mean that everybody in the Beltway is that way, but that's the big city media up there. They don't like the way we build highways. They don't like this money I put into infrastructure down here. They probably don't like my having them up putting in the money for this marvelous instrument here today. But I know where it should go. I know the people of West Virginia and what they need. And so there is the unexplainable. A tacit admission that there must be a higher intellect and a higher power. And a lot of young people here today, and they're going to remember these things. Newsweek, in its edition dated July 20, 1998, included an article that read, "Physicists have stumbled upon signs that the cosmos is custom-made for life and consciousness. It turns out that if the constants of nature, unchanging numbers like the strength of gravity, the charge of an electron, and the mass of a proton were even the tiniest but different, then atoms would not hold together. Stars would not burn. Life would never have made an appearance." That article quoted Nobel Prize-winning physicist and Christian Charles Towns as saying, I quote him, "Somehow, intelligence must have been involved in the laws of the universe." And consider the words of physicist turned priest, John Polkinghorne, who said that the most fundamental component in the belief in God, and I quote him now, is that there is a mind and a purpose behind the universe. Similarly, Newsweek, we people at the Pocahontas Times knew all these, didn't we? We knew them. But Newsweek related the story of Alan Sandage, one of the world's most respected and accomplished astronomers who spoke at a meeting of cosmologists who had gathered together to consider the theological implications of their work. Sandage, who reportedly admits to having been almost a practicing atheist as a boy, came to the conclusion through his work exploring the universe that creation can only be explained as a miracle. He said, "It is my science that drove me to the conclusion that the world is much more complicated than can be explained by science. It is only through belief in God that I can understand the mystery of existence." And so I find it exhilarating that men like Sandage and Towns and Polkinghorne, who devoted so much of their lives to questioning their universe in order to discover its secrets, have come to a conclusion that to me was answered long ago through simple, basic, unquestionable faith and common sense understanding. Now, I know that sun is getting warmer, and I'm going to close. But let me thank you again for coming here today. Let me thank those of you who are not West Virginians for coming here. This is almost heaven here in West Virginia. Let me to thank you, my fellow West Virginians, on behalf of my wife and myself and my staff for the faith that you've had in me and my wife through these 54 years that you've been showing your support and your trust and your confidence in us. I'm not here today to make a political speech, but I am here to say that we're grateful for that kind of support all through the years. There are members of the West Virginia legislature here. There are other public servants. And I want to thank you on behalf of all West Virginians. Let me close now by a bit of verse. Thank you again. Bless your hearts, every one of you, for coming. And thank you, Dr. Caldwell. Thank you very much. Thank all my staff. Thank God for this beautiful afternoon here in these majestic mountains where they grow men, real men. Where God visits the hearth and the fireside of every mountain home. Every mountain home. Man comes, a pilgrim of the universe, out of the mystery that was before the world, out of the wonder of old stars. Far roads have felt his feet, forgotten wells have glassed his beauty, bending down to drink. At altar fires anterior to earth, his soul was lighted, and it will burn on after the suns have wasted on the void. His feet have felt the pressure of old worlds and are to trod on others yet unknown, worlds sleeping yet in some new dream of God. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Byrd, thank you for that message, and thank you truly for your support in obtaining this telescope and for the many things that you have done to promote science and education here in Green Bay. Would you please rise for the benediction, and please remain standing until the colors are retired. Father Acker.
Lord, now we do bow our heads. As we began this celebration invoking your favor, we now close this dedication of the Robert C. Byrd Radio Telescope celebration, asking your gracious guidance in our lives and in all our endeavors. We call you Father, and so you are. May the labors of the men and women at Green Bank expand the knowledge of your kingdom. Lord, you are also Mother to us. As the hen gathers her young beneath her wings, so protect us on our journey home and on our whole course through life. In this National Radio Quiet Zone dedicated to astronomical science, may we reflect on the silence of the Spirit, enabling us to listen to you, to hear your voice, to feel your presence. Lord, God, be Mother and Father to each of us. Lord, again, be with us always. Lord, be with us. Amen.
Thank you, Father Acker. The color guard, please retire the colors. Senator Byrd, if I could please ask you to step forward to the ribbon, and Dr. Caldwell, Dr. Giacconi, Father Acker. Senator Byrd, this telescope stands poised for scientific discovery, and we can only imagine what discoveries those will be. We do know that great telescopes require great vision, and this telescope owes its very existence to your vision and leadership. The scientific community and all those who will benefit from its discoveries owe you their gratitude. On behalf of the National Science Foundation, Associated Universities, and the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, it's our honor to ask you to cut the ribbon and signify the opening of this telescope. Dr. Caldwell. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. I'd like to thank Senator Byrd once again, our honored guests, Dr. Caldwell, Mr. Golden. Please stay and enjoy the refreshments and the music by the Bing Brothers Band. And I thank you all very much for attending.